Welcome, everybody. My name is Krush AK, and this is the Market Meditations Podcast. We chat with fascinating people from around the world to extract mindsets, routines, stories, and habits to help you build richer lives. Today, I am joined by Crypto Birb. He is the founder and CEO of one of the longest running crypto communities, the Birb Nest. He is the co-founder of an incredible marketing firm called Yellowblock. He is a fantastic trader and has a wealth of other skills as well. Today, he shares with us the secrets to his success. Hi, Adrian. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure, Karesh. I'm very happy to be on this session today with you.
I've been seeing a lot of you recently. I mean, I was on your podcast not too long ago, and now here you are.
Yeah, I'm very happy. I'm very happy, that there are very good souls in the space, just like you are. And I'm a big fan, of networking. I'm a big fan of constructing things and projects, to deliver goodness and spread it all around, with the amazing audiences that we both have built. I think this is a responsibility that we're somehow just bearing on our shoulders. And I'm doing my best, to just deliver as good content and as good, amount to the people to help them out.
We actually had this conversation quite recently, a slight philosophical difference in our definition of responsibility, where you said you feel an urge to do your absolute utmost to where your potential can take you, whereas my view was more you need to do enough so that you're giving more than you're taking.
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, this is definitely a very good, very solid point to discuss, to be honest. And I'm quite sure, if we start discussing that into much details, it's going to be impossible to cover, the full scope, I guess, of today's podcast. But I'm very happy, to have sort of like different opinions, because I think, there's entire power in the variety and in the difference, that all the people on this planet would have. Everybody's different. Nobody is perfectly the same. And this is, some people will truly expect that to be really bad, right? Because they are not really alike. But the truth is that, the difference in here is truly a power. It's just the other way around that majority would expect. And I always, I'm biggest fan of, again, taking as much goodness out of, of this context, of two different people working with one another to deliver, just one common goal. And yeah, I truly believe perhaps of my degree, of my major, which is engineering, and the main, I would say, physical, measures and definitions that I was always kind of like trying to understand the best, which is the energy. And well, energy, turns into work. Work turns into an energy, right? There is entire balance in the universe. Energy never goes to waste. And I believe that, again, if you convert your energy and potential into the work, right? Well, some people would call that karma. What comes around comes around, right? Whatever you give out to the people, it comes back more often than not, in a double power to head back, with all the goodness or hatred that you spread.
Absolutely. I mean, there were two key points there. One being the karma, which I couldn't agree more with. I mean, it doesn't always work perfectly, but as a general rule, as a general guideline, absolutely what you put out tends to be what you get back. The world, in my experience, has worked that way. And then the other point you covered, which is quite important and essential, and I couldn't agree more on, is something I like to call a bipolar mindset. So you acknowledge the fact that, yeah, we might have different opinions over there, but nothing's black and white, is it? It's all gray area. And there's so many variables at play. We don't know exactly who's right and who's wrong. So as long as they don't clash with each other, there's no reason we can't go forward with slightly differing opinions. Now, we started off quite heavy with that question. So I'm going to change it completely to the polar opposite direction. Adrian, what's your favorite animal?
What's my favorite animal? It's going to definitely be a pirate.
A pirate, as in a pirate person, or a pirate bird?
Like a parrot.
Oh, a parrot. I thought I heard pirate.
Yeah. I mean, pirates have pirates, right? So I guess it comes all together. It comes all together, especially when the pirates are kind of like bearded the way I am. So this picture, it all started with pirates. We've all started with the interest and amazing, I would say, love, towards pirates as animals. I think these are tiny little amazing creatures, extremely intelligent. The larger parrots, of the larger size, when they measure, I guess, 30, 40%, 40, centimeter high tall, like aras, for example, right? This big macos. They would have often, or the African gray, which is, the kind of like a symbol for my logo, for my brand. The Africa gray parrot, it's researched and it's reported to have, at its best performance, let's say, mental performance, to have like the intelligence, the IQ of 3-year-old child, right? So it's kind of like impressive. They can turn off lights. They can turn, like, there are videos that went viral on YouTube, where there is like this Alexa, this Google Alexa, this Amazon Alexa, I mean, like device, and this voice command, and the parrot will likely play with that, all day long. And people, the owners of parrots, they always come back home late to later find out that they've just ordered via Amazon, for example, 4 packages of strawberries, right, or 14 books of, or for example, how to raise parrots, right, because only the African gray was having really good fun calling out Alexa all the time.
That is hilarious, seeing a parrot order food from Amazon for itself through speaking to Alexa. I mean, I don't even order food through Alexa, so parrots are one step ahead of me there.
Yeah, same here.
So was there much thought that went into, I'm going to be a parrot on Twitter for 2 years? Or was it just, let's go with this animal, it's pretty cool?
It's more the latter, it's more the second one, to be frank. And again, I was joining, crypto Twitter industry, the community, when everybody was picking their own, let's say, avatar, right? And the avatar, the crazier it got, the better, right? So they would see people with, I don't know, crypto dog. I mean, dog, appear later. I guess in what was that, in July, August of 2017. But there were many literally hilarious accounts with funny avatars, of crypto animals, right? This entire crypto farm, and and just thought, parrot, for my love to these animals, would be a perfect fit for that.
How different was crypto Twitter back then?
It's a very good question. I think it was way more immature now when you compared it with current ones, but at the same time, I think the people kind of like come and go. The community kind of like shifts and it changes and it constantly evolves. It's all dynamic, which makes me think that there were as many similarities as many differences, to all of this, right? And all that I can remember from the very beginning, because it was beginning of 2017. The crypto market was booming, right? It was literally, altcoins were having their best rallies. First 10x, just rallies, rides on altcoins back in April, May. So everybody was pretty much busy making money, right? There was not really much toxicity in that, at least just from my perspective, from my let's say memories back then. But when you compare that with current, overall sentiment, overall, I would say structure, the demography of crypto Twitter, you would see literally tons of of scammers, tons of just hatred, and hating people, the hateful people, I would say, the hateful army. So yeah, it kind of like switched into a battlefield to an extent, in my opinion, over the time.
Do you think that's because more money got involved? And with that comes, I mean, if there's more reward, there's a lot more cost. So we ended up getting a lot more negative people in the space, and people, when more money becomes at risk as well, more emotions get attached as well.
Yeah, partially, I think yes. It definitely, has a lot of in common, when you give, and just put money, aligned with emotions. That goes without saying. I just think, it was all the past 2017 was before the market exploded back downside, right? So people would only know the bullish aspect of crypto, I think, for the altcoins. And everybody was just simply on average happier, like more enthusiastic, more euphoric about, what was going on. And I think then, when the 2018 kicked in and the bear market started, I think that's, where the majority, literal majority, I guess, it goes even, greater than Pareto rule, that 80-20 split division, that it would see literally more than 80%, of my opinion, people in the space literally losing, their lifetime savings because they were, back holding literal scams because of buying back, or buying in the peak of euphoria.
Wow, so simply being exposed to purely bullish conditions was probably one of the main reasons. And then as it matures, you end up seeing both sides. If anything, if it was bullish for so long, we were talking about the energy, right? Like you've got all that positive, there's got to be some negative to balance it out. It was almost inevitable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of true. Yeah.
Oh, what did you learn from being in the space so long? What do you think that a lot of the newer people, almost myself included, I mean, I only ended up joining after 2017 to the Twitter space in particular?
Mm-hmm. I think that's another perfect question from you, man. I mean, there's a lot of definitely of what I learned. I think overall, I've learned, again, we're touching slightly upon this philosophical, just beginning to that. I feel I've learned, how to maintain the responsibility, I think. Responsibility, and kind of like following the momentum that I created myself, right? So I'm talking about the brand that I created, like the Birb Nest, right, in 2017, and it could have stopped like a long time ago, but I just came up. I don't want it to stop, right? I didn't want it to stop. I knew I wanted to build something way bigger than I was and that I ever, would be myself, right? I wanted to build a huge, literal empire, and knowing that there is this influence that was growing. I knew that with the big audience, with the book influence, when you're not really using that well, it just goes to waste, and this entire potential is not only kind of like neutral, it just loses, right? It's not like when you have a lot to say, let's say, when you are an influensive person, an impactful person, and you can truly make a change to make world better. And if you're not doing that, then I think it's kind of like a double sin on your end, right? Because majority of people are not really having your like the privilege as you are having, right? And when you kind of like are having this privilege and you're not using that, then in my opinion it goes to waste double, right? So it's a double waste, double loss, and it's double loss not only for you but for all the people that you, in theory, theoretically could help, right? So it's like this opportunity cost in more economic, I would say, jargon.
You've been through this process a lot longer than I have, so I almost look at you as a mentor, really. I mean, you've accomplished so much and you've been in the space so long. I've seen all the incredible positives you've managed to do with your brand and the people you've helped. Now, here's a question you may not have been asked before. Is there anything you really regret and feel you should have done differently throughout this process?
Yeah. So first off, I mean, I truly appreciate all your kind words, Kurosh. I mean, you're an amazing person, and I'm beyond certain that you are going to achieve amazing success, way better than and way greater that you have already achieved, which is amazing. And again, frankly speaking, there's like the success itself is a process, right? And you can make mistakes as human. We all make mistakes. Of course, I made mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes in my my career, in my life. But I think all of the mistakes, if you kind of like focus your energy on improving them and making sure that they don't ever repeat again, and approach everything that you kind of like are approached with constructively, this is what kind of like leads you to the place that you're supposed to be at the right point in time. So that's what has led me to be where I am here today talking to you, for example, right? So overall, it's not that I regret anything. I'm just aware of my mistakes, and I'm doing my best to make sure I'm never going to make the same mistake twice. And that's what I think is the best use case for any sort of like bad events that happen or occur to you.
I love that you almost corrected my question in saying that there's definitely nothing to regret. Man, the more successful people I talk to, the more I realize that it's mindset over everything. People don't like hearing about mindset because they think it's, mumbo jumbo rubbish. But that right there, your response, that's that win or learn mindset. Lose doesn't even come into the equation. Now, could you potentially give us a story or an example of how you've managed to learn from a mistake?
If I search back in my memory, I think there were a lot of like personal, I would say, events in my life. Again, I'm not sure it would make too much sense if I bring here in my entire story from my raising in a childhood to all the moments that I'm here, because most likely it's going to be the most boring history ever, because it always to an extent is not necessarily what people are necessarily wanting to hear here. So I guess it's another topic to be had. But out of my past. I think there were, a lot of people, I guess, that I unconsciously kind of like harmed. I did unconsciously, manage to offend them, perhaps, right? And all that I know, if you burn bridges, is you bury your chances. And again, every chance is an opportunity. Every opportunity, is can make you a better person, right? And if you lose it, and if you decide to burn the bridges, if you decide to be destructive, I think that's what makes you kind of like wander, not in the right direction, to be honest. And I think there were many in the past before I realized how I'm supposed to live, what my best competences were or are right now. There were a lot of mistakes, as I said, that I decided to burn the bridges rather than just build them, although there were not many of them, right? I was raised in a Catholic, Christian family with good, amazing, loving parents and, my little sister. And with this all amazing, loving family, I think I was never truly lacking, love and then positivity and belief in me. So this all, again, pretty much set me for life, I guess, in a way that it comes from inside me, like from, that I'm trying to be a good person and as good as I can be to the world, outside world. But, some friends, some people that I kind of like, sort of like split up with, I think this could have been managed, better, to an extent, to hold the context with them, to maintain, to meet, perhaps. But yeah, all of my experiences, have led me to the place where I am right now.
Well, that's the reason, like you said earlier, you shouldn't really regret, because every event has led you to this exact moment right now where if you weren't here right now, you wouldn't even be you. I mean, the you that's you is the memories and experiences and events that have made your brain and entity what it is now. If you'd done anything differently, someone else would be standing here or sitting here talking to me on this podcast. The burning bridges point was, again, another fantastic one, because early on in my, not even trading career, entrepreneurial career, before I'd made any sort of serious money, I burnt a bridge because of my pride and ego that ended up costing me $250,000. So I can absolutely say that never burn any bridges. There's like really no reason to do it. It doesn't benefit you in any way. Any disagreement you have or anyone you want to stop working with, well, why wouldn't you just do it in an amicable way where you can, if you need to, even if it's a bit of a damaged bridge, cross over it again.
Yeah. Couldn't have worded myself better. That.
After all this time, do you still like Twitter?
Yeah, of course I do. Of course I do, because I'm all here to devoted and dedicated here for those who actually want to hear out, like those who want to listen, those who are open-minded, and is it going enough again to see and discover the value, in what I do, and that's my main focus. That's what I try to laser focus, because if I only focus on the hatred and the negativity that I always get, that any sort of like let's call it well-known person gets, right? Frankly speaking, I'm not sure. I mean, I would be truly surprised if you had any sort of like, haters, right? Because you're such an amazing and kind soul, and you're always, doing your best every single day, again, to spread the positivity and goodness and kindness just the way that I am, which makes us kind of like alike in these terms. But yeah, there are many people that would, just want you to fail, that would want you to kind of like be as, have as much failure as they do, right? Because the failure, the evil wants to be spread, the evil wants to spread across all around, the communities, all around the countries, all around the globe. And again, it's up to you whether you take it and pass it over to your family, to your friends, to your relatives, or you stop it and you convert it into goodness, right?
Yeah. The reason I asked the question was actually because now I'm only recently starting to get to the level where the following is, getting above 50,000, closer to that insane 100,000 mark you are. And I was talking to one of my friends who's in a similar position that you are. And what he says is, as you get to those levels, anything you do or say, even if 1% of your following dislike, well, that's 1,000 people that dislike. And those negative voices do tend to be a lot louder than the positive. But from the sounds of it, you just have created a mindset where you focus on the positive and just ignore the negative.
Yeah, it's true. I've always, it's definitely not an easy task to do and to follow. Think of politicians, right? They would always kind of like have millions and millions of haters, millions and millions of supporters, right? So, if you think percentage wise, if you think number wise, and if you focus too much on that, it may become overwhelming and depressing, right? So the only thing is, again, focus on what you're doing, and just go despite everything wants to stop you, from all around. And when you proceed, when you prevail, when you succeed, by just sticking with your guts, with your own plans, again, that's the path and venue to the success.
I love that you use politicians as an example, because since entering the social media space, I have managed to sympathize so much more with politicians, simply because the facts start to matter less and less. People stop caring about the facts and they focus instead on just what they want to believe. And that's all they see.
Very true. Very true. Many people, actually, majority of this word, is not really, I guess, familiar with the proper definitions of words that they are using. And that's the reason why they don't really understand and absorb the word just the way it is and it works. And that's what makes them, I guess, not really understand and, comprehend the difference between a fact and an opinion, right? That's where everything becomes subjective to an extent that you would expect that everybody, would need to be just the same that you are, right? And that, that again, when you, not sure if this is like a saying in English, right? But at least I'm trying to convert it, translate it from Polish. But you should never attempt or approach to measure other people with your own measures, right? That's kind of like more literal, I would say, translation. But what it says is, again, you cannot experience and expect everybody to be and to think just the way that you do. And when you discover that, and again, when you focus on what best values and amazing partnerships and amazing products, be it business products or physical real products, you can build out of such a relationship. That's that's again, that's what defines you as a successful person or a lifetime failure.
Honestly, Twitter is one of the it's the best, not one of the, it's the best networking platform I have ever found. Better than going to any conference, any meeting room. You can literally go into the DMs of billionaires and they respond to you. It's insane, yet some people choose to spend their time trolling, not understanding that an opinion without evidence is not a fact. Like, I mean, you're a perfect example of what networking can build. Not only do you have the Birb group, but you built Yellowblock not too long ago. And honestly, Yellowblock is a fantastic, incredible idea. And yeah, it's just been amazing watching that grow.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Lots of works definitely behind the scenes, and people never truly see, 99% of the efforts you make every single day, you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. They would only see, this final product, right? Not the thousands of iterations before you release it. And Yellowblock, I think it's one of the many projects that we, have had with such amazing friends as Teddy, as Crypto Orangutan or Crypto Monk. These are very talented and amazing people, and I'm very, just happy to have co-founded this project some longer time ago. To deliver high quality, services to those who truly need, and to kind of like, with our mission, to filter out all the trash, all the trash projects, all the trash exchanges, all the trash, I would say, persona people. I mean, perhaps it's not a good word to call it, right? But there are many people who are literal scams. Like they come here because they see an opportunity to make money. Like, just take, the sushi master, right? I just sold off all his tokens very recently, and just to abandon whatever they do, right? And our task and our mission has always been to kind of like filter such, again, trash projects away from those who truly deserve, the recognition in this space, but perhaps struggle, with abilities, in the marketing field, and perhaps with the resources, with the human resources to build, and to grow and expand. Some brands are not lucky enough to have, enough support from the industry, right? And if it hadn't been for our help, for example, they would have, most likely disappeared out of the space. So yeah, I'm very happy. I'm very happy to be part of this project. This is a great addition, I think, to this space.
Well, to everyone listening, huge shout out to Teddy, Orangutan, and Monk. I am friendly with all of them, some more so than others, but they all seem like fantastic people. And that's one of the reasons I'm such a big fan of Yellowblock. And I love that the philosophy behind it was to filter out what is good and what isn't, because at the end of the day, the crypto space is very inefficient. And there are a lot of projects, which your word was trash, and I would say it's not too far off the truth. It's a lot of scams, a lot of not so decent projects. But what I'd like to know is, someone like you, who's built what you've built, must have so many opportunities coming their way where it's more a matter of saying no as opposed to saying yes. So what made you say yes to Yellowblock? What made Yellowblock deserving of your attention? What's the thought process that went into that for you?
These are some big words coming from you, man. I mean, it's not, I'm definitely not any sort of like a, biggest person on this planet, right? I'm just doing my best. And, we were a bunch of very good friends. We used to have, before we connected, on the Yellowblock basis, we had, many opportunities that we, were working on before. And the truth is, that when there is like this good chemistry, you say, between the people, right? When you know that you're all good friends, and that that you're all capable of building things, and having some audience, having a lot to say in the space, and then you gather, to make it easier to just make the message stronger and to build more than you could again just do on your own, right? That's what we call the synergy effect, where 2 + 2 = 5 at times.
Absolutely. Again, find myself agreeing with you. I think it was Naval who said, when you find something you love to do, and I'm paraphrasing, so sorry if I butcher his perfect wording. When you find something you love to do with people you love to do it with, then suddenly work becomes play. And I mean, what more do you want from a job?
Yeah, very true, very true. And again, just we are always making sure that whatever we do is purposed, right? That there is a purpose, and that the purpose is just set towards improvement, towards delivering goodness, towards nothing related to any sort of like negative events, right, or negative emotions. We only produce what's the best.
Have you always been entrepreneurial? Have you always been set on this path, or was there a point, I know you studied engineering, was there a point where you were going down the standard job route ever?
Yeah, so answering the first part, that's not my entire life. Definitely, there was this breaking point in my life, which was the second year of my studies on the chemical technology engineering, Warsaw School of Economic, Warsaw University of Technology, the best engineering, I would say, academy in Poland. And the second year, this was the largest one. I mean, this was the breaking point for me, because all of a sudden, the first year I was a freshman. I just used to go to the parties every single day and night, and every single week. It was flawless. Like, life was such an easy piece of cake to have at that time. But then when this year, with new responsibilities, with new I would say, again, classes to attend, it's not even classes, but the overall effort that you had to kind of like make sure you overcome this huge obstacle that that was arised, like a reason on between you and your purpose, which was ending the studies. So this step was huge. If this was a stairway, that this would be the largest step, the second year, right? It was the year that the most people pretty much just drop out of the university, because they couldn't manage to push through this second year. And I had to pick, I had so many exams, and all of them were extremely just hard to follow. It was not only chemical parts, it was more like thermodynamics, for example, of physics, or physics and chemistry combination. The engineering, more subjects that you had to follow, and I think this was the breaking point. This was the breaking period, because I had to choose. It was so busy that I had to choose which project, which subject, which kind of like class I need to fail to be able to pass another one, right? Because, for example, there was one night, a couple of hours, and I had to study for 3 exams, which were the finals. So, while having not really much time in before, because of having, for example, like lab classes, right, on the laboratory, or like a super hectic and busy schedule. So I had this vision. I had to make a choice, like if I want to finish it, or if I prefer to just go the easier way, which is to resign, right? It's always easier to resign. And I just
You ended up doing 2 masters after that.
Yeah, it was an engineering course. It lasted 3.5 years. I passed it. I passed it very well. Of course, the second year after I passed it, I had to kind of like combine many different, I would say, strategies. By being polite, by being just kind to the professors, and by just keep being there and keep fighting, right? By keeping to fight against all the obstacles, I only managed to survive this. And since then, it truly shifted my mind, to an extent that, okay, there is nothing I cannot do in this world, right? If I managed to pass the second year, which was physically impossible to me, I could do anything, right? And that was like this click point on my end. And then, all of a sudden, all the opportunities started to appear, with the amazing people that I started to meet, with amazing professors that were, there to supervise me and to lead me. And that's what pushed me, just through the engineering course, through the master course, then later, and through another course that I just recently, claimed the diploma for, the second master's of economics, top school of economics in Poland. So all of these things combined, it's been a huge story and a constant dynamic, just journey that keeps evolving every single day by approving and accepting opportunities that come and flow into or in front of me.
You networked your way through second year. That is incredible and really shows the power of networking. I mean, Adrian, I was talking to, I don't know if you know Nebraskan Guna on Twitter.
I do.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. And he was talking about how he's, since childhood, just networked his way into any job, any position, anything he wanted to get. And honestly, hearing you do it through university, now that's a first from what I've heard. Was that difficult, or did that come naturally to you?
Well, it was not really only, I would say, the networking, of course. There was like tons and endless hours, of just studying for the materials. Of course, there were exams. You wouldn't be able to, pass exams by just being kind. But all I mean, by being kind and polite to others, opening to, to the criticism, perhaps, I was able to unlock and open many doors, on my way. And that's, all of the, I would say, effect and result comes from, again, being open to the opportunities that you are having. And yeah, I mean, not sure if it corresponds directly with a question.
Oh, it really does. I mean, obviously, definitely for all the listeners, was not implying that Birb did not study and just sweet talked his way through his courses. But yeah, it really does go to show that simply the power of networking, and also going back to a previous point, the power of being a kind, decent human being. All it does is benefit you in every way in your life. People, again, don't like to hear it, but the most selfish thing you can do is be a kind, decent human being. It's only going to benefit you. And I mean, I guess this comes naturally into something I really wanted to ask you during this podcast. And this is about you wrote an entire thesis on the technical analysis of Bitcoin. I think it was based on Japanese candlestick charts over a 9-year period. I would love to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah. I mean, it was quite a decent, definitely quite a decent piece. I spent a lot of time on that, to be frank. It was half a year, all day, all night. I mean, it was mainly all night, because the truth is, I was developing, the Nest as the main, venture of mine at that time. And I was, only able to fit in, the writing of the thesis, somewhere in the middle, right, in the windows, in the time slots that I had, left during the nighttime. So I was doing nights like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. was daily routine. There was just going to bed and just waking up, 10 or 9 to proceed as usual with more business related, matters. But yeah, this entire piece, especially when it comes, when it appears within Warsaw School of Economics, this was not really the warmest welcome that it would get, right? Because technical analysis is supposed to, like, by the economists, by the, I would say, large range professors, they will not really, most of them consider technical analysis as a sort of like a science, as a study, right? They would just merely have it as some sort of like a horoscope, right? Or just, fortune telling out of this, crystal ball. But again, the truth is that, when you don't really dig into that, when you're not trying to understand, why things are happening, and that these things, can be described in many different ways and formulas, then that's what kind of like blocks you, right? Because the same, I think because I've really had, in my life, multiple fields that I was busy, with. For my hobby, I'm a musician as well, right? I play the guitar. I sing in a men's choir, which is one of the best in Europe right now. Men's choir itself is a very, it's cantores minores, by the way, right? Which is, in direct translation, I guess, from Latin, it would be like formulating like small singers, right? It comes because everybody, in the 90s early would have, 9 years old. And most of them, kind of like, again, prevailed and succeeded to stay in the same choir for about 30 years for now. We're having like the 30th celebration this year in October and November. So, these all fields, in the physics, the engineering, the economics, the music, it all shows me universal laws, the universal rules, that kind of like drive this entire planet and world and universe. And the same, let's say, chemical particle of your body, you can analyze the same part of the matter, the same fraction of matter within many different formulas, within many different perspectives. When you, for example, always give this example of a glass, or of a glass of water, or a cup of coffee, to my, for example, private mentoring students and mentees. And if you ask them to define, if you ask anybody to define glass of water, or a cup of tea, or cup of coffee, they would go like, oh, you drink from it, right? Or you drink with it. But the truth is that a person who's not familiar, who's never seen, for example, because they might be blind, I don't know, they might have a sight problem, they will never see, a cup of tea, how it looks, how it's shaped. When you explain that in such a way to such a person, they're not going to be able to tell what a cup of coffee is or how it looks like, right? And, so the definition always starts with answering the question what, and then what, and, how, what, way, where, why you can do with that, stuff. So the definition, should start with that this is a container, right? That you can pour some liquids into that, right? And it's having this handle attached that you can use, to drinking, right? To I don't know, help you, just calm down your thirst overall. But this same cup of coffee, the reason I'm saying that, because the same cup of coffee can be explained in many different ways, right? So as a chemical engineer, as a chemist, I would try to analyze, all the atoms and atomic connection and bonds, right, between the particles and the atoms that are involved, which is, the glass, right, which was going to be the sodium or the silicon, right, the water, H2O, all of these things combined, right, create this glass of water or a cup of coffee or whatever. When you ask a biologist, they would perhaps try to analyze this with regards to some bacteria, to some microorganisms that might be living on the surface, right? Or what it does, if it does any harm or good to your body, right, when you drink it. For example, musician would write a song about this cup of coffee, right? The physical man, like the physicist, they would analyze, the energy flow and the workflow and how the, forces work, the dynamics of that and statics, and the forces, the overall, for example, Newtonian formula, right, and laws, dynamic laws, and how it all applies. So, and it's still the same cup of coffee, right? And I'm very lucky person to have many different fields and experiences that let me analyze the same cup of coffee in many different perspectives, right? As a musician, as a chemical guy, from the physical perspective, I'm in the physics, and any sort of like related to that subjects and matters.
Wow, yeah, what a fantastic example with the cup of water. What we're talking about are the different lenses through which we can see the world, from which we can not only see but experience and understand. And I guess going back to the original point of the thesis, the economics professors weren't accepting that technical analysis, and I also am familiar with how they don't treat it as a valid lens to view, probably through lack of understanding. And it's interesting that the economics professors would say that when economics really isn't that hard a science in and of itself. We have maths, chemistry, physics. Yeah. They all have extremely universal laws that can be tested and applied. But when it comes to economics, we're dealing with so many variables that it's not as clear a lens as something like the hard sciences. So I'm impressed managed to get technical analysis through, and that's pretty amazing. And obviously you mentioned the singing, which I mean, the first time I found out completely blew me away. I know that's one of your passions. Have you ever thought about incorporating that into your work?
Yeah, this is my passion. And regarding the singing part, it's been always my passion, or not even always, like since I was 16, it's been always my passion since then. That's how I met my fiancée as well, because we met, for the second time, at the singing classes when we were above 16. Way before, way before we were hanging around in the kindergarten together. She was chasing me all around, just saying she loved me and just wanted to be my boy, like my girlfriend. And I was just and I was not really interested. I was just running back away. I was just more interested in just playing in the playground, right, in the in the sandbox or whatever. But yeah, all this combined, makes me still have this passion of music, right? Of creating, of creativity. The music is creativity, and I do apply. I may not necessarily be, just singing every single day of my life for now, every single hour, but I still apply the same, again, universal feel and vibes, and the feeling and the vibes coming from the music, right? Music is oscillations, is vibrations of air, like changes, constant fluctuations of air pressure, right? Air is chemistry. These dynamics come from physics, so it's all kind of like combined, and this all adds huge value to this universal perspective and overview that I apply, for example, in market reading, in technical analysis, in trading, right? So I use that, despite I'm not a day-to-day guitarist or gig player or just jazzman, I would still apply the musics paradoxically to trading.
Yeah, it seems you have a very interconnected view of the world. You've got this flexible lens which incorporates your many plethora of experiences and skills. I guess to be more specific with the question, it wasn't rather how you use music to bring it in, but whether you've considered actually running businesses around music itself.
So you mean the musical career, perhaps?
Not even a musical career, but any involvement. For example, one of my friends who I speak to is a trader and he's got a hedge fund, but he's got a huge passion for video games. So he's got his own video game team who compete and do that sort of thing in video games.
Nice. I love this idea. It's really good. So, I'm myself and always surrounded with creative people, with the men's choir, all of my friends pretty much are artists. Some of them are musicians, some of them are, painters. And like overall artism, I think, has always been around me. So we used to play bands, we used to, just join some formations. I used to have, which may become funny to some, a barbershop quartet for a very short period of time. I'm quite certain you're aware of this one. You know what it.
Yes, I'm very aware of what a barbershop quartet is.
Yeah, it was a very short term period, in my life. The paths apparently didn't align well enough to make it stay and sustain. But I would say at this point in my life, that I can either delegate a lot of my stuff, or just grow so much that I decide to pass it over, for example, to the next generation to take care of. I'm definitely going to renew this barbershop quartet. That's too much fun.
As we approach the end of this podcast, this is one of my favorite questions to ask people who come on, especially those who are traders. What is the trade you have taken that you are most or least proud of?
Okay. So is it the theoretical one, or is it like the practical one that actually did?
It's your personal favorite. Now, that could be the one that made you the most money. It could be the one that was most satisfying, the one that defined your trading philosophy, whatever you personally are most or least proud of? I feel these sorts of questions really give the audience something to learn from a trader's experience.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I'm generally speaking very, satisfied with what I did, in 2017, especially in the end of it. When the markets, all of them were booming, I literally flipped, altcoins every single day and made, 100% on each, right? Every single day. So all of these, within the period of, I don't know, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I made like times 7, times 6 out of just trading, a couple of shitcoins back then, which some of them got delisted further on because they turned out to be scams, right? There was Bittrex back then. There was Bittrex. I cannot recall. I think Binance was new. Binance was, would just appear back then. But yeah, this entire period was definitely the best one. I cannot even give you the names of the coins because there were so many that I would flip, every, often a few times a day. But on the contrary, I would say on the opposite edge, there was the one trade of triggers in the pair with Bitcoin. The project is not existing anymore, I guess. But it was a coin that I actually called, on Twitter, that I gave on Twitter, that it was, as far as I can remember, oscillating between 3,000 and 4,000 satoshis daily fluctuations. So it was quite a big range, if you ask me. And I called it. They were supposed to have like some NASA partnership or something like that. They were dealing with overall guns industry in the US and applying blockchain, by fingerprinting or something like that. And I got 2 tight stops, and I got stopped out overnight. And a few days after, it went and rallied, times 20, right? So I missed my own boat. Despite calling that. And many people made a huge amount of money of that, but not me. So that's kind of like a missed train for sure.
So you watched it for so long and kept a close eye on it and then missed the final big jump on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Although the 2017 coins, definitely that was an insane period where, so much money could be made there that it was ridiculous. Have you found a bit of a repeat of that with the DeFi craze that's been happening recently?
Yeah, for sure. For sure, it comes every couple of months if you think about it this way. There's this entire seasonality effect of altcoins that they would perform, better, for example, in Q2 and Q4 rather than Q1 and Q3, right? That's what history kind of like has taught us. And it works almost like clockwork, right? Like this literally works perfectly well. But the truth is that too many people would focus on short-term trading, day trading, that they will lose this bigger side, this bigger picture, an overall time frame that makes them forget that there is this seasonality, that makes them forget that they don't need to trade 20 times a day to be successful. And actually, the more they try, the more they trade, the more they lose. So answering the question, yeah, I did find a lot of similarities of, let's say, said bubble to an extent of the DeFi, when compared with 2017 overall market bloom, like this market, just surge. Yeah, and I just think, many of the altcoins have just confirmed, the global reversals, like 2-year long accumulations, just like Ethereum did. This is huge, if you ask me. We just got long-term confirmation of bull market, right? So I'm looking forward not even to just, shitcoins pumping times 10 and then getting delisted from the exchanges, but I mean about this entire industry that is just likely going to expand more and more in the next months and years.
That's why you and me are here, isn't it? We're betting on the future of this industry, the fact that crypto it already is, take over the world and hopefully replace a fundamentally flawed and broken financial system.
100% correct, man.
Adrian, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Market Meditation. If you enjoyed yourselves and you learned something here today, do consider subscribing to our newsletter to receive news, analysis, and education directly to your inbox 3 times a week.